Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft. I want you to think for a second about the kinds of businesses that operate almost entirely in the background.
Right, the ones without the flashy consumer commercials.
Exactly. I mean, they don't sell retail products, but they work quietly behind the scenes to save other businesses money or, optimize their operations.
And those exact companies, the ones meant to be these quiet custodians of corporate efficiency, they are increasingly finding themselves staring down the barrel of massive digital extortion attempts.
Yeah, which brings us to today's analysis. Right now, one of those exact background custodians, an Australian energy management firm called Energy Action, is caught in a developing cyber incident.
Right, with a highly sophisticated ransomware group known as SafePay.
And it highlights one of the most critical vulnerabilities in our modern digital landscape. I mean, the more interconnected and vital a B2B service becomes to its clients, the larger the bullseye on its back.
Definitely. And the information we are analyzing today comes from a recent exclusive report by Daniel Croft at Cyber Daily, and it provides a pretty stark look at how these threats are evolving.
So mapping out the immediate situation based on Kraft's reporting from early May 2026, Energy Action actually appeared on the dark web leak site belonging to the SafePay Ransomware gang.
Right.
And to understand the stakes here, we really have to look at what Energy Action actually does. I mean, they aren't a power plant.
No, they're a consulting firm.
Right. Their mandate is to highlight energy usage inefficiencies for other businesses, helping companies avoid what they term bill shock.
And guiding them toward net zero emissions, which is actually a benchmark the company's already achieved internally.
Oh, wow. So they actually practice what they preach.
Exactly. They function essentially as an optimization engine for corporate Australia's energy consumption. I mean, they manage a very significant share of the country's commercial business energy spend.
That's huge. But before we examine the broader implications, we really need to underscore that these claims are currently alleged.
Yes, that is a very important distinction to make.
Because the timing and the confirmation are both critical factors here. At the time Cyber Daily published their report, SafePay hadn't actually disclosed specific details of the incident.
No, and they hadn't confirmed the actual volume of data they claimed to possess either.
Right. Instead, they just initiated a countdown. They threatened to leak the allegedly stolen data in just over 2 days from the article's publication.
And at that exact moment, Energy Action had not publicly disclosed any incident, and Cyber Daily was just waiting on a formal response.
Which creates this really volatile holding pattern.
It does. Threat actors frequently use that ticking clock on a public leak site to force a victim's hand.
Just dialing up the pressure.
Exactly. They operate on the assumption that public pressure and, the fear of the unknown will expedite a ransom payment.
Wait, I'm trying to square the target with the threat here, though. If Energy Action's primary function is just managing power usage to prevent corporate bill shock, why is a highly organized ransomware group wasting their time on them? I mean, utility blueprints and efficiency metrics don't exactly sound like the kind of high-dollar corporate secrets that trigger massive payouts.
Well, on the surface, an energy bill doesn't really sound like a gold mine. But the value to the attacker isn't in a single company's energy usage.
Where is it then?
The value lies entirely in the aggregation. You have to think of a consulting firm not as a single target, but as the central nervous system for hundreds of other businesses.
So by compromising the consultancy, they are accessing the shared circulatory system of all their corporate clients.
Precisely. If a threat actor breaches a single retail store, they acquire that one store's data. But if they breach a management firm that services hundreds of diverse businesses,
They get everything.
right, they potentially gain access to a staggering trove of aggregated corporate intelligence.
Oh,
We are talking about highly sensitive procurement records, detailed energy account data, and vast cross-industry directories of corporate contacts.
which drastically changes the leverage.
Absolutely.
Because the attackers aren't just holding Energy Action's internal memos hostage, they are threatening to expose the sensitive operational data of every single company that trusted Energy Action with their business.
And that threat is existential for a B2B service provider.
Mm.
The reputational damage for a consultancy that fails to protect client data is, well, it's often catastrophic.
Yeah, and the attackers obviously know that.
Oh, they are acutely aware that these firms are under immense pressure from their own clients to resolve breaches quietly and quickly.
So they just calculate their ransom demands based on that cascading pressure.
Exactly. They're basically monetizing the target's foundation of trust.
Man. To really grasp the severity of this alleged threat, though, we have to look closely at the group making the claims. Right. SafePay is a relatively new name in the broader timeline of cybercrime, but they have escalated their operations at a terrifying speed.
Yeah, they have.
According to the reporting, they first emerged in October 2024, and in roughly a year and a half, they have claimed more than 450
Which is
victims.
an incredible volume. Claiming 450 victims in an 18-month window requires an immense, highly sophisticated operational infrastructure.
Yeah, that is not the work of a few rogue hackers in a basement.
No, it is the footprint of a major digital enterprise.
And their geographic reach confirms that enterprise scale. I mean, they've targeted organizations in Australia, the UK, the US, Italy, New Zealand, Canada, Belgium, Brazil, Germany, Barbados, Argentina.
It is a completely global dragnet.
But the detail that truly separates SafePay from the rest of the pack is their business model.
Yes, this is the really fascinating part.
They explicitly state on their dark web leak site, and this is a direct quote, SafePay Ransomware has never provided and does not provide the RAS.
And that public declaration is incredibly significant. In the current cybercrime ecosystem, almost everyone operates on the RAS model.
Right, and for anyone listening who isn't entrenched in threat intelligence, RAS stands for ransomware-as-a-service.
Right.
It operates remarkably similarly to franchising a fast food chain. You have top-tier developers who sit at the top of the pyramid. They write the complex malicious code, the actual encryption software, and they maintain the extortion leak sites.
But they don't actually break into companies themselves.
No, they rent their software out to affiliates. And these affiliates are essentially independent contractors who do the dirty work of, phishing employees, bypassing firewalls, and deploying the locker.
And when a ransom is paid, the affiliate and the developer just split the profits.
Exactly.
It is an incredibly successful model because it allows for rapid scaling. The developers avoid the operational risk of network intrusion.
And the affiliates don't need the advanced coding skills required to build unbreakable encryption algorithms. They just buy the toolkit and start hunting. But let me push back a bit here.
Okay, sure.
If you or I are sitting at a compromised corporate terminal, staring at a red screen demanding cryptocurrency, does it actually matter to us how the criminals organize their HR department? I mean, the files are locked whether the attacker is an independent affiliate or a salaried employee of the syndicate.
Well, from the perspective of the immediate panic, you were absolutely right. The operational disruption feels identical.
Right.
However, from the perspective of incident response, defense strategy, and negotiation, the distinction between a decentralized RAS affiliate and a centralized in-house cartel changes everything.
Walk us through the mechanics of that. Why does an in-house operation change the defensive playbook?
Because RAS networks, by their very nature, are chaotic. Affiliates have wildly varying levels of skill.
Ah, okay.
You might have a highly sophisticated initial access broker who breaches a network flawlessly, but they hand the access over to an inexperienced affiliate who makes incredibly noisy mistakes.
Like what kind of mistakes?
Well, they might use off-the-shelf tools that trigger security alerts, or they might fail to cover their tracks, leaving forensic footprints that allow incident responders to figure out exactly how they got in.
And then they just close the door.
Exactly.
So an affiliate model is inherently messier. You have multiple independent actors touching the network, which just increases the surface area for errors.
Right. And in addition to the technical errors, the RAS model introduces immense friction during the negotiation phase.
Oh, really? How so?
Sometimes an affiliate will successfully extort a company, receive the multi-million-dollar payout, and then simply vanish without providing the decryption key.
Oh, wow.
Or the affiliate wants to decrypt your files, but the developer's Tor infrastructure gets taken offline by law enforcement, making the decryption tool completely unavailable.
So the victim is left entirely helpless even after complying.
Yes.
That actually makes the in-house claim by SafePay much more intimidating, but paradoxically maybe more reliable.
Yes, reliable is the perfect word for it.
Because if they handle everything from the initial breach to the malware development to the negotiation, they control the entire life cycle of the attack.
That is the crucial takeaway. Centralized groups are highly consistent. Because the same internal teams are conducting the breaches, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, their TTPs remain uniform across different attacks.
Which means threat intelligence teams can build much more accurate behavioral profiles.
Exactly. We know the specific tools they prefer, the types of vulnerabilities they exploit, and how they move laterally through a network.
And I guess it also means they have absolute control over their brand reputation on the dark web.
Absolutely. Extortion relies entirely on trust. The perverse trust that if a victim pays, the criminal will honor the deal.
Right.
An in-house syndicate like SafePay relies on future victims believing that paying actually works.
Yeah.
If they get a reputation for taking the money and refusing to decrypt files, their leverage in future negotiations evaporates instantly.
Makes total sense.
So when an incident response firm negotiates with a centralized group, they operate with a higher degree of confidence that they are dealing with the actual decision makers who have the power to return the data.
Okay, understanding that SafePay operates as this cohesive, disciplined unit makes their targeting strategy even more perplexing when we look at their past victims.
It does seem a bit contradictory at first.
Yeah, because Croft's article details a few recent breaches that highlight their operational history. In February 2026, they hit Genealogy SA.
Right, a South Australia-based genealogy nonprofit dedicated to historical family records.
And the timeline of that specific incident provides a really great look into how these attacks unfold over time.
It definitely does.
According to the organization's public statements, they detected the incident, immediately engaged cybersecurity experts, successfully contained the breach on their network, and proactively communicated with their members.
From a crisis management perspective, they followed the playbook.
They did. And yet, months later, on April 16th, SafePay listed them on their leak site and ultimately published the data.
And this illustrates the concept of dwell time and the separation of exfiltration from encryption.
Which means what exactly?
In modern extortion, the deployment of the ransomware, the moment the screens turn red and the files lock, is actually the final stage of the attack.
Oh, so by the time you know you are under attack, the worst part has already happened.
Right. Long before the ransomware is detonated, the attackers have been quietly navigating the network, finding the sensitive file shares, and slowly siphoning that data out to their own servers.
So Genealogy SA contained the active threat and stopped the operational disruption, but the data had already left the building.
Exactly. And the variety of the data SafePay dumped from that nonprofit is staggering.
Yeah, it included business, financial, and insurance documents. It included historic genealogical data and personal details found in correspondence.
They even uploaded internal organizational templates and generic labels.
Which is just so weird. Generic labels.
Well, the inclusion of internal templates suggests they aren't executing surgical, highly targeted data thefts.
So they aren't just looking for the high-value stuff.
No, they are establishing persistence in the network, finding the primary file servers, and executing a mass exfiltration. They copy the entire directory tree, mundane administrative templates and all, because it is faster and requires less manual sorting while they are inside the victim's environment.
Wow. They just take everything that isn't nailed down.
Pretty much.
Now contrast Genealogy SA with another SafePay victim from July 2025, Ingram Micro. We are talking about an absolute behemoth of a global IT distributor.
Right.
The fallout there resulted in the compromise of personally identifiable information for more than 42,000 individuals.
You are looking at two organizations that share absolutely zero structural, financial, or operational similarities.
And this is where I struggle to see the strategy. You have Ingram Micro, a multi-billion-dollar tech giant. You have Genealogy SA, a regional nonprofit tracking family trees. And now we have Energy Action, a corporate energy consultancy. How does a highly disciplined in-house cyber syndicate justify deploying their centralized resources against such a random assortment of targets? It feels completely scattershot.
It appears completely random if we assume threat actors operate like traditional bank robbers.
Who carefully select a high-value target.
Exactly, and then spend weeks figuring out how to break that specific vault. But in the digital realm, the logic is inverted. This is the reality of opportunistic exploitation.
Meaning they aren't picking the target, they are picking the vulnerability.
Precisely. They do not decide to attack a genealogy nonprofit. Instead, their automated infrastructure scans the entire internet, millions of IP addresses, looking for a single specific flaw.
Okay.
They might write a script that searches the globe for an unpatched version of a popular enterprise firewall or a known vulnerability in a remote desktop protocol.
So it is the digital equivalent of walking down a street that is 10,000 miles long and just jiggling every single doorknob at lightning speed to see which ones happen to be unlocked.
That analogy is perfectly accurate. Automated scanners can probe the entire IPv4 address space in a matter of hours.
That's terrifying.
And when the script finds an unlocked door, an unpatched server, it automatically exploits the flaw and establishes a quiet foothold. It is only after the initial access is secured that the human operators log in, look around, and figure out who they just breached.
Oh, They break in first and ask questions later. Like,
Right.
we just breached a global IT distributor. Excellent. Map the network, extract the PII, and demand a massive ransom. Or, we just breached a regional nonprofit. Well, the door was open. We are already inside. Exfiltrate the server and demand a smaller sum.
Because the automated nature of the initial access means the cost of breaching the nonprofit is effectively zero.
Yeah.
They simply monetize whatever falls into the net.
Right.
And this fundamentally destroys the old concept of security by obscurity. Many organizations assume they are too small or, their industry is too niche to attract the attention of an elite cyber cartel.
But SafePay's victim list proves that your industry does not dictate your threat level.
Your perimeter defense dictates your threat level. If a device is connected to the internet and it is vulnerable, the scanners will find it, regardless of what the company actually does.
Wow. Synthesizing all of this brings the situation with energy action into very sharp focus. We are watching a developing standoff involving an alleged breach of an Australian energy consultancy.
And the adversary, SafePay, operates with the speed and global reach of a massive enterprise, claiming hundreds of victims in a matter of months.
Right. They achieved that scale not through the chaotic, decentralized affiliate model that dominates the industry, but through a tightly controlled in-house operation.
And because they rely on opportunistic exploitation, their victim profile ranges from global tech giants to local nonprofits.
And when a group with that level of discipline manages to compromise a B2B consultancy like Energy Action, the leverage shifts dramatically.
It really does. They aren't just holding one company's data, they are holding the aggregated, sensitive operational data of every corporate client the consultancy serves.
Which is a stark reminder to approach early claims on dark web leak sites with a critical eye, right? Because threat actors routinely exaggerate the scope of a breach during the negotiation window.
They do, but the underlying mechanism of the threat is very real.
Yeah.
And the evolution of SafePay raises a profound question that security professionals and business leaders really need to consider.
I bet.
Over the last several years, the ransomware economy has been defined by ransomware-as-a-service. The decentralized affiliate model won out because it scaled so quickly.
Right.
But recently, we have seen law enforcement agencies get much better at dismantling RAS networks precisely because those networks are noisy. Affiliates make mistakes, servers get seized, and the infrastructure crumbles.
So the messiness of the franchise model is actually becoming a liability for the cartels.
Exactly. SafePay is succeeding wildly by doing the exact opposite. They're running a closed-door, highly centralized syndicate.
And if the broader cyber underworld observes SafePay's success and realizes that the RAS model is too vulnerable to law enforcement disruption,
We may be on the precipice of a massive shift back to the era of the disciplined cyber cartel.
wow.
And if threat actors tighten their operational security and centralize their tactics, the corporate defense playbook, which has spent years calibrating to fight disorganized affiliates, is going to face a very steep, very dangerous learning curve.
Yeah, as the adversary is tightening their ranks and becoming more disciplined, our defensive strategies have to evolve to match that precision.
Absolutely.
And it brings us right back to the premise we started with. The quiet companies operating in the background, managing our energy profiles or maintaining our IT infrastructure, are often the ones holding the master keys to the broader economy.
They are the prime targets in a landscape driven by opportunistic scanning and aggregated data.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us for this analysis today.
And if understanding the mechanics of these threats has sparked any questions about your own network architecture or the security posture of the third-party vendors you rely on, don't wait for a dark web countdown clock to start assessing your risk.
Absolutely. We highly encourage you to visit www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your own security and IT needs and ensure your business has the defenses in place to avoid becoming the next headline. Stay vigilant out there.